All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Senate Committee on Education. My name is Senator Angie Taylor, and I have the honor of running this meeting today. And we will start with our roll call, Madam Chair. Madam Secretary. Sorry, I'm Madam Chair. Sorry, sorry. But yeah, I don't want to call the roll. You go.
Senator Buck, Senator Cruz Crawford, Senator Donyate, Senator Dondero Loop, Senator Rogish, Senator Titus, Chair Taylor.
And I am present. Please please mark Senator Buck here when she arrives. Today, we have a couple of bills that we're going to go over, but before we get started on that, let me go over a little bit of housekeeping. Oh, there's Senator Buck. We'll go over a little bit of housekeeping. Please silence your electronic devices. If you would like to testify or give any public comment at that particular time, then please make sure you've signed in over there at the table, or if you just want to sign in so that our record shows that you're here, that's fine as well. When you come forward to make a comment or testify, please make sure you turn on the microphone, speak loudly and clearly, and make sure you state your first and last name. For the record, we ask the first time you say your name that you will spell your last name, and then every other time after that, when you speak, we ask you to just give your name. And if you forget, then I will remind you, because we want to make sure the records reflect who's actually here. Turn the microphone on when you speak, and then turn it off when you are finished. At the end of the meeting, we will take public comment. I'm going to give that phone number now. If you'd like to make public comment or call in to testify on the bill, that number is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 8531-6697-810. And again, we'll take those public comments and those and the testimony. We take public comment at the end of the meeting. You'll each have 2 minutes to do that. And then also, just as a reminder, we are a policy committee, and although in many areas policy and finance, they do tend to overlap, but we will be focusing on the policy piece, and then we'll let the finance committee, as led by our very capable vice chair, take care of the money part. And then finally, you see committee members have laptops open in front of us. We have exhibits, notes, and so on. So as we look at our laptops, please don't take that as a sign of inattention or of disrespect. We are paying attention. We are right with you. I think that is everything. So let's get started. We have two bills today. Senate Bill 444 revises provisions concerning policies governing the use of certain electronic devices in schools. And then we have Senate Bill 446 revises provisions relating to work-based learning programs. And I will turn the meeting over to our very capable vice chair. We'll start with Senate Bill 444.
Good afternoon. I will open the hearing on Senate Bill 444, and please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And thank you to the committee for taking the time to hear this bill today. I am Angie Taylor. I proudly represent Senate District 15 in Washoe County here in northern Nevada. So I appreciate it, Vice Chair Dondero Loop and committee members. I am pleased to have the opportunity to present Senate Bill 444, which requires school district policies on the use and possession of certain electronic devices in schools, namely cell phones, to include certain information. But before I discuss more specifics on the bill, I am going to turn it over to my intern, Fiona Perot, who will talk a little bit more about why we're here. And then, Madam Vice Chair, with your permission, I'll quickly walk us through the bill.
Thank you, Senator Taylor, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and members of this committee for allowing me to present today. My name is Fiona Perot, FIONA-PERREAULT. So today we're going to be talking about SB 444, which is about cell phone policy. So for background, cell phones are a massive distraction to students. When I asked a teacher librarian in WCSD about cell phones in schools in previous years before this current school year, she said it's hard to give directions to a kid with earbuds in their ears staring at their phone, and then they misbehave because they don't know what to do. So limiting cell phone use in schools reduces that distraction and improves student focus. It also helps reduce bullying throughout the day because the kids aren't glued to their phones. They don't know what everyone's saying about them at any given moment throughout the day. So limiting cell phone use has been shown to improve student mental health, better grades, increase instruction time, and improve student behavior as well. And when I asked that same teacher librarian in WCSD, and WCSD implemented a new policy for phones this school year, she told me that there have been fewer issues and students have been more attentive as a whole. And beyond WCSD, 3 other Nevada school districts have already adopted policies regarding phones in schools, being Clark County, Carson County, and Churchill County. So current statewide policies, just beyond Nevada, 6 states have banned the use of cell phones as a whole. 3 states limit the use of cell phones, and then Minnesota requires each school district to implement a policy, which is what we are also going to be doing with SB 444. 6 states encourage their districts, but they don't have any actual policy saying that you must. And then 2 states currently have pilot programs going actively during this school year. And then as you can see, Utah and Arkansas have a little asterisk next to them because they implemented their new policies. They made those policies on both in March and February of this year, respectively. And then here's just a little graph so you can kind of visualize that a little bit better. The green being the ones that banned it, and then the red having the pilot programs and all the in-between shades.
Thank you, Ms. Perot. Angie Taylor, for the record. Madam Chair, thank you. Just for a little bit more context, the 2023 report by Common Sense Media indicates that 97% of students between the ages of 11 and 17 reported using their phones in some capacity during the school hours and handling their phones during school hours approximately 13 times a day. Additionally, national data has shown the negative impacts, as already alluded to by Ms. Perot, of using cell phones in schools on their learning, mental health, cyberbullying, and even on teacher morale. The National Center for Education stats reported that nearly half of public schools in the western United States have seen a negative impact on student learning and staff morale due to the use of cell phones and other devices. However, we recognize that electronic devices also contribute positively in the educational environment. Most of us can imagine ourselves without our cell phone, even while we're here during the sessions. They're great tools that have significantly advanced our societies, but that has come at a cost. Okay, so some of the ways that we know that electronic devices are used in schools in a positive manner, they've contributed to learning, enhance opportunities, they support student outcomes, and they really serve as an important line of communication in an emergency situation. So this bill seeks to address the negative impacts of electronic devices that they have had on schools and students, recognizing that this issue is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I believe it's important to preserve the control over details of such policy to the local level because they know their communities best so that they can consider the implications within their unique circumstances while also requiring these entities to consider specific matters in such a policy. As of October, if you got some stats, at least 27 states and Puerto Rico have introduced legislation related to cell phones. Our legislation here today, Senate Bill 444, jumps into, really picks up Nevada law. Nevada Revised Statutes 392.930 already has a policy on the use of electronic devices while on school property or school-sponsored events. You may find it interesting to note that they also include pagers in that policy. Some of you don't even know what a pager is. Okay. All right, we'll just keep going. Okay. Maintaining local controls over these policies simply expands on what the district policy already is, and it includes updates to certain references as in pagers. In the context of the bill, electronic communication device is defined as electronic device capable of transmitting audio, written, or pictorial information or messages to another electronic device. Examples that we will keep will add cell phones, computers, laptop computers, and tablets. This does not include devices issued to students by their school or school district, because those, as we know, are used for learning outcomes. With that in mind, Senate Bill 444 requires each school district's policy to govern the use of and possession of electronic devices. That will include measures for student discipline that include a system to rate violations on a progressive discipline scale based upon the number and severity of the violations, limitations on the use of electronic communication during instruction, and then any exemptions that they may deem appropriate for emergency situations, circumstances, and so on. And these may include emergencies or crises related to health or family issues, and if the teacher allows the use of such devices and instructional purposes, teachers may do that with tablets, cell phones, and so on, or if the use of a device is included in any kind of IEP, individualized education program, or a Section 504 plan. With that in mind, we stand ready for questions on Senate Bill 444. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. And does that include walkie-talkies? And
Well, that's a different.
our young senator may know what a walkie-talkie is.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, really quick before I go to all the other questions, is as I see this list of cell phone, computer, laptop, and tablet, does it include an Apple Watch or whatever watch you may be wearing?
When you started reading the list, I said, "Ooh, we forgot we should add,
Right.
that should be added." I think that's a very good amendment to consider.
Right, because with that being said, we know how clever kids are, sometimes for the wrong reasons, but we know how clever they are, and they can have earbuds in, and we may not even know it. So,
That's very good.
and so, where will these be stored? Or will
Angie-
they just be in their backpack?
Angie Taylor, Senate District 15, for the record. That's up to the school boards.
Okay.
And how
Okay.
some people use
Sure.
pouches. I think in Carson City they use pouches, but
Yeah.
that's up to the school boards to
Okay.
determine.
All right, thank you. Questions? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So can you give me an example of what some of the other states have done? And you mentioned it briefly just now. If a child comes to school, and that's not necessarily be a little child, it could be a teenager, those type of folks. Do the other schools, other states, you mentioned Carson maybe has a pouch that you put it in per class, or is it turned in at the front door? What does this process look like?
Hi, Fiona Perot for the record. So just within Nevada, I know that there's a broader one that I can't speak for every single state. I do know that Carson uses locking pouches using, it started with like a V, using locking pouches where the students take that pouch with them throughout the day, and it's like locked up at the beginning of the day and unlocked, and it's a magnetic lock. Clark uses non-locking pouches that block the signal, and Churchill and Washoe don't have a pouch, but they just prohibit the use of it during instruction. So it would be more of a phone being confiscated or just a verbal warning.
Or I'm just curious if they could keep it in. Are they allowed for like an emergency communication from a family member? The family needs to reach them, et cetera. I heard the vice chair say, well, they call the front office. But again, in this time, I would say many parents probably don't even have the number to the school anymore. I mean, we used to remember numbers all the time, and nobody does anymore. And so I'm just curious about a processing here, and I certainly am not against it. But instead of trying to define what a communication device is, like leaving off the watch, my peer to my left here mentioned maybe just using using the term electronic communication device and not necessarily spelling them all out, because they develop as quick as we can. I take calls on my phone also, but pretty soon it's going to be your Ring that you can talk on, or my ear ring or something along those lines. And I certainly think that they're distracting, and leaving it up to school district to have a policy that works for them, I think is the ideal solution. So thank you for bringing this forward.
If I may, Madam Vice Chair, thank you. As we're going through this, it does seem to make sense that we don't run into like a pager situation and so on. That just to include electronic devices, and part of that definition really can be at the school district level, because then they can change it in the regs as they see fit. So thank you for that, Senator Titus.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Senator Cruz Crawford.
Thank you so much, Chair. I just want to thank you for this piece of legislation. I know when CCSD adopted the pouches, they did such a great job communicating with the families about the policy, and so that our families weren't angry at the individual schools or teachers. And I think that's very necessary, because there's a lot of pressure as a classroom teacher when you're telling your students to put away their devices, but if they are already warned at the district level, it really helps with that. And then also like the mental health aspect, right, of getting our students back to communicating, working with each other. Yes, technology has a huge part of learning, but thinking about this, that the districts are going to develop this policy. I just want to thank you as an educator, as a parent. Great idea.
All right. Any additional questions, comments from anyone? All right. Seeing none, if you'd like to step back, we'll go to those in support here in Carson City. Welcome you to the table. And go ahead when you're ready, Mr. Marks.
Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 125 years. We support Senate Bill 444 to require updated policies on the use of student electronic devices in schools. Every educator in the classroom knows about the problems of student cell phone use in classrooms. Personal electronic devices typically serve as distractions, with texting, social media, and gaming diverting attention away from classroom instruction. Easy access to the internet and now artificial intelligence leads to cheating during tests and assessments, and some students use phones despite knowing it's against the rules, leading to conflicts with educators with repeated violations. Senate Bill 444 is a common sense measure to regulate the use of student electronic devices during instruction time while implementing a progressive discipline process based on a number of seriousness of the violations. It provides for the appropriate use of student electronic device in case of an emergency or for instructional purposes or to support an IEP. We ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I am Brian Wallace, a computer science teacher and the Vice President of the Nevada State Education Association. I work here in Carson City, and we adopted the Yonder pouches this school year to limit the students' ability to have access to their cell phones as well as their Bluetooth-enabled headphones. At my school, which is Eagle Valley Middle School, we have a marked decrease in students being tempted to check their phones for any reason or attempting to use their phone and their headphones to listen to music or etc. Current data from my dean suggests we will see a decrease in online concerns that may have started at school due to the inappropriate use of those devices. At Carson High School, who also adopted the pouches, one surprising result is the noise level dramatically increased during lunch. And this is because students are actually engaging in conversations and are not buried in their phones any longer. That was very surprising to hear that from teachers as one of the most positive aspects of the pouches. As a computer science teacher, the pouches still allow flexibility for appropriate classroom use of the devices. Students unlock and lock the pouches on their own, and on those days, they know where the device to unlock is. They take care of business. When we're done at the end of the day, they go right back to do it because we have established those routines with those students. We have very few violations of students not using their pouches or attempting to access their devices. We support a progressive discipline process when addressing violations while allowing the appropriate use of those student electronic devices. We urge you to support SB 444. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and committee members. My name is Robert Munson, M-U-N-S-O-N, for the record, and I am the Vice President of the Washoe Education Association. Having been a middle school and a high school teacher for the past 27 years, I've seen the impact of cell phones and technology in our schools. When it was against state law for students to have phones and pagers on school grounds, many of us advocated for a change. However, the use of cell phones has become a serious problem in our classrooms today. Whether a student is texting, yes, even with their parents, chatting with friends, watching videos on TikTok, these activities are distracting students from engaging and learning in their classrooms. In the past, I could ask a student to put a phone away, and it generally happened. When it didn't, I would take it till the end of the class period. But today, with 35 kids in a classroom and many of them trying to use their phones, it's like a game of whack-a-mole. When trying to take a phone away today, it's more often than not confrontational, and students get really defensive. When administrators and districts don't support teachers, then we give up. Thankfully, our district took a stand at the beginning of the second semester of this year, and this has made a huge difference. Kids will rise to our expectations, and setting consistent expectations from classroom to classroom, school to school, and perhaps even across the state, the resistance to comply dwindles. We work to educate our parents and our students this semester, and it has been much more productive in our classrooms. This bill allows students to use their cell phones and other technology for classroom-appropriate activities and enhance and support learning. But it makes it clear that inappropriate use will not be allowed. This is why the Washoe Education Association and Nevada State Education support SB 444. And we ask for your support in our efforts to use technology appropriately with our kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Hello, Chair and committee members, Jessica Glover, JESSICA-GLOVR. As a Washoe County graduate and parent, I can remember that the reason I'm going to support SB 444 is the communication devices not only distract the person that's using them, but also the student that is sitting next to that person that may be trying to learn. As knowledge is power, we only get one time to go to school. And when you miss class, you miss education. So I support this bill and I ask you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and Committee. My name is Nicole Flangas, Flangas. For the record, on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards, we want to thank Chair Taylor for bringing this bill, as it's a very important issue about using electronic and communication devices in the classroom, and we do want to protect our classrooms. This policy is in direct line with our legislative priorities to keep autonomy of policy within the respective districts. We appreciate the clear distinction of allowing each district to determine their policy for electronic use and possession and the subsequent disciplinary policy, and stand in support of SB 444.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Brad Keating for the record, representing the Clark County School District and also the Nevada Association of School Superintendents who are unable to be here today. We are here in support of Senate Bill 444. As a district, it was mentioned in Clark County, we've got non-locking, signal blocking cell phone pouches that we use with our students. Just take this from a different angle. The best job I have in the world is being a dad. When I go home to my kiddos, who are both 3 and 5, every once in a while, my 5-year-old might tell me, "Daddy, put your phone down," because we all get into we're all doing things. And that's a reminder to me to make sure that I'm present in the moment and focused on those kids. What we need in our schools is those kids to be focused and to be present inside that school environment. So what these pouches do is they help all of our students be present, learn, and be successful in the classroom. So on behalf of all the school districts in the state, we fully support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, Chair Taylor, Vice Chair Dundera-Loop, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Eduardo Martinez, and here on behalf of TechNet. TechNet is a national bipartisan network of technology CEOs and senior executives that represent over 4.5 million employees in the fields of information technology, AI, cybersecurity, venture capital, and finance. While teens and children have the right to both receive information and express themselves online, we also recognize that school districts work hard to create a focused learning environment during the time that the children are in their care. With so many demands on their attention and personal distractions already in class, the use of electronic devices shouldn't be one of them. As such, we are in strong support of SB 444, ensuring our school districts in Nevada are able to limit the use of these electronic devices in public schools. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
John Eppolito, protectnevadachildren.org. Strong support of the bill. Thank you very much, Senator Taylor. A few articles. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs raised their kids tech-free, and it should have been a red flag for the rest of us. New York Times, a dark consensus about screens and kids begins to emerge in Silicon Valley. Washington Post, Melinda Gates, I spent my career in technology and I wasn't prepared for its effect on my kids. Education Week, a call for fewer screens in the classroom. Scientific America, students are better off without a laptop in the classroom. I don't know where this one came from. Technology is a huge social experiment on our children, and that's what I think is really happening. It's not just the cell phones. We definitely support the bill, and I think it's a start. Angie knows one of the things we've been talking about is less screens in the classroom and a choice for parents to have a low-tech elementary education, just like the dot-com executives do with their kids. These devices are not for their kids, they're for our kids. I don't know how much time I have left because I can't see, but one of the things that we know happened in Washoe County, elementary school kids watching pornography on their district-issued devices. That's an issue, and the school district is not responsible. No one at the district is held accountable. Yesterday, a mom was telling me where was it? Right here, Carson Middle School kids were shooting a pornographic video in the bathroom at Carson Middle School. Now, that's come in third hand, but if kids in elementary school are watching pornography on their district-issued devices, even if they're not shooting pornographic videos in Carson Middle School in the bathroom, there's a lot of things going on that are inappropriate on the devices. And it's not just the phones, it's also the district-issued devices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any additional support here in Carson City? Seeing none, I'll go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas looks pretty empty. We'll go to the phone lines. AVH, when you're ready.
Thank you, Vice Chair. To testify in support of Senate Bill 444, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. We will go to opposition here in Carson City. Any opposition in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll go to Las Vegas and then on to the phone lines. AVH, anybody in opposition?
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 444, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral. Anyone here in Carson City in neutral? Las Vegas, and to the phone lines. AVH, when you're ready.
To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 444, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. And we have no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you very much. Closing remarks, Senator Taylor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Angie Taylor, Senate District 15. For the record, just in closing, it's important that we do the best we can to stay up on these policy issues, electronic devices, and so on. And while we know these devices are necessary and often contribute to the learning, we know they can also become a distraction. It hinders not only a student's ability to learn, but we haven't really talked much about this. It also impacts the teacher's ability to teach. So I urge you to join me in supporting Senate Bill 444. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator Taylor. We appreciate that. And with that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 444.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. And now we will go on to our second bill for the day. We'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 446. This bill revises provisions relating to work-based learning programs. And then presenting on behalf of this is the Interim Committee on Education, is Senator Danyante. Senator, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Taylor and members of the committee. I am Fabian Doñate, representing Senate District 10, and I'm here to present on Senate Bill 446, which revises provisions relating to work-based learning programs. The bill comes from the work of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Education. The committee discussed the topic of WBL at considerable length, particularly relating to barriers for opportunities in the state. Through work-based learning experiences, such as internships and apprenticeships, young people can learn the technical, academic, and interpersonal skills they need to function in a workplace and environment they will enter in just a few years and where they will spend decades of their lives. Across the country, states are increasingly turning to WBL programs as a key strategy for addressing skill gaps and preparing students for an evolving workforce. Recent analyses, including a 2023 nationwide scan by the Center for American Progress, shows that lawmakers across the country are introducing legislation aimed at making opportunities more accessible, better funded, and more closely aligned to industry needs. Nevada in particular has been exploring ways to straighten pathways that connect classroom learning to career-focused experiences, responding to both local labor market demands and a broader national shift toward experiential education. Recent news reports highlight that despite our state's reputation for hospitality and tourism, many employers are struggling to find qualified candidates for jobs and trades in technical fields. As we seek to diversify our economy with expanding industries, local schools and training programs face a dual challenge of modernizing their curriculum while also providing students with an on-the-job experience. To address these gaps, policymakers and education leaders have advocated for more robust partnerships with businesses and community orgs. The committee heard testimony from the Nevada Department of Education about common barriers to WBL opportunities in the state. These challenges include manpower and funding shortfalls, as well as concerns related to background check requirements and participation standards. Several suggested changes were proposed to address these barriers, including streamlining the background check process and clarifying standards for participation to ensure broader access to WBL programs. And Chair, if I could just go over quickly the bill summary. Senate Bill 446 seeks to ease the barriers highlighted by the committee with several key changes. First, pupil participation requirements are revised, ensuring that a majority of students who are at least 16 years of age are eligible for WBL opportunities. Second, the bill revises background check requirements. Under current law, volunteers in schools and related settings are required to submit fingerprints for criminal background investigations, often repeatedly, over a 5-year cycle. Senate Bill 446 provides the flexibility by allowing the Board of Trustees to exempt volunteers who have already undergone background investigations as part of their employment or professional licensing process. This not only reduces administrative redundancies, but also lessens the burden of volunteers who wish to maintain student safety. And last but not least, furthermore, recognizing the costs associated with the background investigations can be significant, SB 446 authorizes the Board of Trustees of a school district to reimburse participating businesses or organizations for these expenses if funds are available. The provision is designed to foster stronger community partnerships and encourage broader participation in these programs. In conclusion, by addressing both eligibility and safety concerns, this bill aims to enhance the WBL framework, thereby better preparing students for future career opportunities while safeguarding their educational environment. And this bill represents a balanced approach to expand educational access and maintain high standards for student protection. And at this time, I will go ahead and take any questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Danyante. Committee members, any questions for the Senator? Senator Titus?
Thank you, sir, thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing a question, and thank you, sir, for presenting. 2 questions. First, there are no amendments, is that correct? This is what we're seeing? Okay. So on the bill itself, if I look at Section 2 going down to A, you're exempting any volunteer employed by the business agency. By definition, is a volunteer an employed? Is to me, if you're employed, you're receiving some reimbursement for an activity. You're just a volunteer for an agency versus being employed. Is that just semantics?
Thank you so much, Fabian Doñate, for the record. I'm going to attempt my best to answer this because I'm not the bill sponsor, so I'm just taking it to what I understand. My understanding is that oftentimes there are volunteers that support the programs, but because when you're dealing with kids, the challenge has been having to go through the background checks, and so this is providing the flexibility so that those volunteers can still assist with students receiving the training programs, and just further simplifies it. But I don't know if legal has anything to specify more on it.
Thank you, Senator. You can phone a friend to Vice Chair Dondero Loop.
I would suggest that a volunteer could be somebody like from the Chamber of Commerce.
No, I understand what a volunteer is, but I'm just saying, are they considered employed?
They're not employed.
That's where I'm wondering about the semantics.
You mean employed by a business that is sending them in?
So again, yeah, so this limits just, you could be an outside volunteer that's not employed by anybody, but you're volunteering because you have expertise and you're retired now.
But if you work, let's just say you work for a Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
And you are going to come in to talk to students about workforce. You may be very well employed by the Chamber of Commerce or by another business that is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but you would not necessarily be employed by the school district, but you would still need fingerprints to come in as a volunteer, and this is addressing that issue.
Well, thank you, and I understand that. My question was, what if you aren't employed at all and you're volunteering? You would still have to have a background check, right? I mean, you're no longer employed by anybody other than you are an expert in welding, and now you're volunteering at the school. You're not employed. I'm just making sure that it would cover that.
Let me jump in, if I may, Senators. We're going to ask our legal counsel, Mr. Newton, to please weigh in on that. Thank you.
Cameron Newton, Committee Counsel. Based on the definition of volunteer that's set forth in NRS 391.1035, the volunteer doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the relationship of that person to their employer or anything. It is in reference to their relationship as a volunteer to the school. So, for instance, in that section that defines it, it means any person who, without compensation, works at, assists with, or oversees any activity or event conducted or sponsored by a public school. Yes.
Does it exempt the employer from liability, just out of question? Because one of the issues that we had with workplace training or folks volunteering is the liability of that. They can't get those. I guess if the employer volunteer comes to the school and volunteers, the liability for their activity is covered by the school or covered by their employer?
Again, I'm going to ask, thank you, Senator. I'm going to ask, because that isn't what this bill is about. That should already be outlined. So I'm going to ask Mr. Newton, if you would mind.
Yeah, as to the Cameron Newton Committee Counsel, as to the specific of the liability question, I would have to get back to you on that.
Well, we've heard in other situations, education committees, that a lot of companies who want to have job training for these kids can't have the 16-year-olds, 17, 18-year-olds because of the liability to the company. But if they come to the school, I guess that's a different I guess the onus is on the school, not in the company.
No, if I may, thank you, Senator Titus. I was thinking, we did this last session.
Right.
And Ms. Stern-Gardner just reminded me that it was AB 165, so that had to do with the liability piece. It was specific to those who are coming from their organization but going on campus.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at that and be able to give an answer. Senator Doñate wouldn't be involved in that. Any members, any other questions? You good? I don't know if you have more questions.
One
Senator?
more.
Please go right ahead.
And it's also the same, just I guess for clarity again, they have to have it says, number B, authorize the volunteer to submit his or fingerprints for an investigation into the criminal background of a volunteer less often than every 5 years. So currently, the volunteer only has to do it every 5 years?
I think we'll get that as we look at the legal piece on that to see what's currently in statute.
Right, because it changes something, because it's authorized a volunteer to submit his or her fingerprints for investigation into the criminal background of a volunteer less often than every 5 years. So what's the intent there?
It sounds to me like the intent is right now it's every 5 years, but in this case it would be less often. That's what it sounds like. It's difficult because none of us were in interim education.
Yeah. Yeah, so does it mean every 2 years, every 3 years?
Oh, I'm sorry. The vice chair was on interim education.
What does that mean?
And so was Senator Buck? You don't recall either? Okay. Vice chair?
Would you repeat that question, please, Senator Titus?
Thanks, and I hate to be too much of a stickler, but I'm just trying to make sure I understand the language here. So that's on section 2, and we're going down number 3, and then it goes A, and then under A, 1 and 2, and then it's B, authorize the volunteer to submit his or her fingerprints for an investigation into the criminal background of the volunteer less often than every 5 years. The question, I guess, is it currently that it's mandated that you get a background check every 5 years? Because, of course, things can happen over time. You can become a criminal, and when you're not. And then what does that mean? Is there other language that gives us a template that means no minimum of, you have to at least once a year or every 4 years? I mean, I'm just wondering why is that there?
Well, I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to make a suggestion, and Mr. Newton can correct me if I'm wrong. But if you authorize the volunteer to submit his or her fingerprints for an investigation into the criminal background of the volunteer less often than every 5 years, you know, a lot of volunteers are one-time volunteers. Sometimes they're two-time volunteers. I would suggest that we probably don't have volunteers that come back 10 years straight, for example. You and I, for example, you're a medical doctor, I was an educator. We may be asked to come in for a career day. We may be asked to come in to talk about our professions to classes and encourage students to have that workforce information, right? But we may not go back for 5 or 10 years. So I think this is what that is addressing, but I would suggest that Mr. Newton might be able to give us more information.
Mr. Newton, are you prepared? Thank you, sir.
Cameron Newton, Committee Counsel. So under NRS 391.104, each volunteer who is likely to have unsupervised contact with pupils must, before beginning his or her employment or service as a volunteer, and at least once every 5 years thereafter, submit to the school district this background check requirements. So this does still comport with that, in that it's saying that they are authorized to submit it less often than every 5 years, but it doesn't necessarily conflict with the requirement that they have to submit it at least once every 5 years. So it can be shorter, but it still comports with the requirement of 391.104.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. And I would say that when this first started with fingerprints, it was because teachers, myself included, we were fingerprinted once and we were never fingerprinted again for your entire education service. So then the law started stating, we had laws that changed in 2011 or 2013, I forget. And what we changed it to was every time you renewed your license. And then volunteers were a little different than that, so.
Thank you for that. I mean, I understand all of that and the importance of background checks, critically important. It just seemed like it was a very unclear line because it doesn't really give clarity on what the expectation would be. But as long as they can't go past 5 years minimum, and so the law really isn't changed. I just didn't know why that language was needed, what was the background, but none of us understand what that language came from and why that's in there. So,
Mr. Gaynor, though, has a little insight that may be helpful on the intent.
Thank you, Chair. Jen Sturm, Committee Policy Analyst. During the interim, we heard from Director Craig Statuki, then the Director of CRALEO at Nevada's Department of Education. He had discussed the barriers and possible solutions to some of these programs, and he had worked with various stakeholders, including the business community, and one thing that came up was inadequate capacity to handle increased workload associated with some of these requirements, including background checks. And so one solution proposed was to allow the background checks to be valid for an extended period.
Thank you, Ms. Sturm. That speaks something to the intent. We'll continue the work and dig through to see what other details we need to have on this to answer the committee questions. Any other questions from members? Okay, seeing none. Thank you so much, Senator, for standing in. We appreciate it. And now he's like, great. I didn't volunteer you. All right, we will open it up for a testimony in support of Senate Bill 446. If there's anyone here in support, seeing none and seeing no one in Las Vegas. Oh, there is someone in support? Mary, you knew that was coming. You should have been coming up here. Okay, go right ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przensky here representing the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. Certainly appreciate the conversation on the fingerprinting, but the superintendents are in support of the bill. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else testify in support? Seeing none here or in Las Vegas. Oh, you want to come on up. If there's anyone else we have 3 chairs. Come on up if you want to testify in support. We can fill them up and keep it going. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Hello, Chair and committee members. Jessica Glover. I'm going to support this bill because I can tell you what can happen in 5 years. You know, someone can always have a slip up, and you see in our day-to-day life throughout the nation of just law enforcement officers being arrested for different things. So I'm going to support the background check because if it's going to be volunteering around children, as a parent, I want to know that the people that are around my child are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Glover. Is there anyone else here in Carson City? Seeing none here or in Las Vegas. AVH, do we have a caller in support?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of Senate Bill 446, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll open it up now for testimony in opposition. Anyone in opposition to Senate Bill 446 here in Carson City? Seeing none here and seeing no one in Las Vegas, we'll go back to the phone lines, AVH.
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 446, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much, AVH. Now we'll go to neutral. Any neutral testimony here in Carson City? Okay, seeing none here or in Las Vegas. One more time, AVH.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 446, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Senator Danyate, you'd like to come for any closing comments? No surprise there. Thank you so much. We will close the hearing on Senate Bill 446 at this time. Now we're on to the final item on our agenda, which is public comment. We'll open it up for public comment. Anyone who'd like to have public comment, come forward at this time. You'll have 2 minutes, and just as a reminder, this is not for discussion of the bills. This is for other things that we have not covered on the agenda. Mr. Eppolito, please go ahead.
Hi, John Eppolito, Protect Nevada Children. I wanted to take this opportunity to mention, and I might have mentioned it in here before, but I'm starting to get confused. There are 2 vendors who make cell phones that don't have internet, and that is what we recommend for young kids. Gab and Bark are the 2 vendors. They can make phone calls, they can do pictures, and they can do texts, but they can't do the internet. So again, that's what we recommend for young kids. Any parents or grandparents or friends of parents and grandparents that have kids. I also wanted to mention my 4 kids, they didn't get cell phones till they were 16. Except for one. One, when she was 15, she needed it for school. So we've come a long way. And the reason she needed it for school was because one of her teachers would have the assignments and the kids would have to take a picture of their assignments. So she was in there during lunch to get her assignments because she said she was the only one in her grade that didn't have a cell phone. It might have been true, but I didn't care. But what I did care about was when she told me, I'm like, well, let me email the teacher. No. Don't email my teacher. Don't call my teacher. Don't go to the school. If you see my teacher, go the other way. She was very forceful, and I'm me. So it was hard for her. So she's my only child who got a cell phone at age 15, and it was the school that dictated that. So I think we've come a long way. I don't know if that could happen again, if there's a teacher that requires it. Hopefully not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eppolito. Any other public comment here in Carson? Seeing none and seeing no one in Las Vegas, we will go to the phone lines. AVH?
To provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, you're unmuted. Please proceed. And caller, we can't hear you. If you could please ensure that you are unmuted on your end, that would be great.
Yes, my name is, for the record, Tanya Atterbury, A-T-T-E-B as in boy, E-R-Y. And I am calling in, I would like to see that SB 248 that was provided by Carrie Buck, her bill, that we would get a hearing for it. We would like to require each public school to establish and maintain a publicly available list of an electronic format cataloging all print and digital materials available in the school library and all instructional materials used as a part of the school curriculum, so that we as a public and as parents can go in and see everything that is going on. Washoe County has an open source library system that is in their county, and we would like to mirror that. And I would just wanted to say I want to support SB 248, and we would like to have it heard on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Atterbury. Do we have another caller, AVH?
Chair, we have no additional public comment callers at this time.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, members. Our meeting is adjourned, and we will reconvene on Monday at 1 p.m. Thank you so much.